Hey beauty lovers and fellow entrepreneurs, I'm Yegi, the owner and founder of Yegi Beauty. Within 5 years of being my own boss, I was able to grow Yegi Beauty into a multi-million-dollar company. This podcast is where I share what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur in the beauty industry. What's up, you guys? Welcome back. Do you want to be overall happier, healthier, more control over your life? Here is a few things that I'm working on to get back to that place. I feel like I kind of fell off the wagon this couple of years, actually. So, 1, declutter, organize, get rid of anything that you don't need in your life. If it's work stuff, personal stuff, physical stuff, people, emotional stuff, that's step 1. Step 2 is work on your habits. I think we forget to pay attention to our habits. So habits are the core foundation of who we are, basically. So after doing something a certain way or building certain habits, it eventually turns into a personality and a character, and that just becomes your identity. So this is why habits are so important, because sometimes we can say, I am just like this. For example, I can say, I am just not a morning person. And I would say that forever. I just love sweets. I have a sweet tooth. And that has become my personality. That has become my identity because that's what I say. But the reality of it is I've had that bad habit for such a long time. It became part of my personality identity, right? But if I want to change that, I fully have control over changing it. First, I just need to recognize and literally sit down and decide who this new me, who this new identity is going to be. I'm going to be the type of person, and I actually wrote it down when I was thinking about this. I'm going to find it and read it to you guys. When I thought about it, this was actually what my bad habits were that had become my identity. So I think every person at least has like one thing that is like bad, not bad, but a bad habit about them that kind of reappears in their life. Like we work on it, we're aware, but you know, like how you say, I keep making the same mistake. Like, why do I keep making the same mistake? I think every person has that one thing. For me, it was kind of like feeling too overwhelmed, too busy, too all over the place. And I realized that this was a pattern in my life. And I would feel super in control over my life because I think I have really good skills and habits with being on top of everything. But I realized I have a really bad habit with any time that I feel like I'm caught up, everything's going nice and smooth, I add on way too much to my calendar. Like I get too excited and I'm like, oh, I could maybe start doing this and that, or oh, let's work on this extra project at work. So I realized that I have that problem and I keep doing that. Anytime I finally spend so much time and energy and I'm fully in control over everything in my life and I'm in a good place, I add more stuff. It's like, why do I do that? But that's my issue I'm working on. But now that I realize that's become part of my identity, part of me changing my identity in my head of who I think I am, because I kept on saying, oh, I'm always too busy. I always have too much on my plate. But why? Like I fully have control over my life, my schedule, but I still feel that way, right? I'm a business owner, so I can do whatever I want with my schedule, but why do I feel so all over the place? So a lot of times, like people may think it's because of their life the part of their life that they don't have control over, like their work schedule. Like you have to be at work from 9 to 5 or 9 to 8, whatever your schedule is. But the reality of it is the identity we give ourselves. And that's one thing I had given myself, is that I'm always too busy. I'm always too much on my plate. I'm always don't have enough time. I'm always like rushing. I can't like sit down and enjoy the moment. And what I realized too, I need to give myself a new identity in order to change those habits for me to not be that way. So if you think you're a certain way, for example, if you're a person who just doesn't work out, you don't like to work out, that's not true. You may be the person who loves to work out or do some sort of exercise, but we've told ourselves so many times that I'm the person who doesn't like to do this. And I think I've told myself so many times, and I thought it's good or it's normal to be so busy and so like busy. I've given myself that identity that I'm just like super busy. Like I just have so much going on because I want to do more. I want to be successful. But I've realized that's not true. Like it's a false identity. So instead, I'm trying to work on the bad habits, which for me, I realized was just adding more extra stuff to my plate that I really don't need to do, you know? So I'm going to try to work on that and instead focus on the things that I'm doing and that are working, right? To summarize, we're giving ourselves a new identity. So I'm the type of person. So for me, here's what it was. I literally wrote it down. So now this is going to be my new identity to myself so I can change my bad habits. So I'm a person who feels caught up and relaxed at ease on the daily. Because like I said, it has become a bad personality character that I'm always rushing, not enjoying the moment because I feel like I just have too much to do. I have to go. But I really don't. It's just switching my identity. So that's my example of how I'm changing my identity for that one little thing. Instead of feeling always like rushed, not enough time and all of that, I'm switching it to no, I'm a person who can be relaxed, enjoys the moment, enjoys the days, and that's my new identity. And I think once you like make that decision, oh, this is my new me, then we can work on the bad habits to eliminate in order for you to be able to become that person. Another thing, again, in order for us to get good habits, we need to get rid of bad habits. So identify what you're doing that are bad so you have room to add good habits. So let me elaborate a little bit about the workout one. So if that's identity that you have, you tell yourself, okay, I'm not a person who works out. There was a really good example in the book again, and one person is literally switching that identity and he's saying, okay, I am a person who works out, but you have to start small. And that's the main concept between this book too. That's why the title is Tiny Habits, is we have to start small. It's really not realistic. Let's say I say my identity is I'm a person who works out, but I've never worked out a day in my life because I've always told myself that I'm a person who just doesn't work out. I hate working out. So the example from the book is there's this guy, he has always said that he is not a person who works out, but now he's changing his identity and he's going to be a person who does work out. But we're starting tiny, and that's where the title of the book comes, Tiny Habits. Because if we're starting to change our identity and fully jumping into something that we've never done before, we're going to fail. It's never going to become a habit. Because there's no way if somebody never worked out in their life, they go to the gym and they're going to try to do 100 push-ups. No freaking way that they can even do that. And it's so discouraging that they're probably not even going to try. So that's the concept between tiny habits. Whatever habit we want to form, we want to start small. And we want that small habit to have almost like a trigger. I don't know what he calls it exactly, but it's almost like a trigger. So for me, the way I think about that is you need to have an event that your new tiny habit follows that you're already doing. So if there is a habit that you're already consistently doing in the morning, so for example, every morning you have a good habit of brushing your teeth. So that's already a good almost like indicator or an alarm clock that after I brush my teeth, I do one push-up. Literally that simple. And in my head, it's like, okay, I could do one push-up. It's just one push-up. Even if it's on my knees, a half-ass push-up, I could do it, right? So here's how I formed that tiny habit to get into my eventual habit of working out 1 hour a day, if that's my goal, right? And don't overthink it. Literally, that's the concept, is to start tiny. So brush my teeth, one push-up. And that's all you have to do. Don't commit to more. And literally, the way it works is once you start doing this as a habit, it really becomes part of your identity. So now you're kind of a person who does one push-up a day. And then after you start doing one a day, after a week, you're probably going to be like, oh, I could do 2. So then you start doing 2 a day. Then you're like, oh, I could do 3. You're just building on it. But now that it's a habit, you just automatically almost do it. It's like, okay, wake up, brush teeth, push-ups. And that's how we build new habits. It was easier for me to break it down for myself to be able to like form the new habits I want to form. Because honestly, it's all like a domino effect. So once we work on one little habit that's better, then it almost motivates you to work on another habit and another habit and another habit. And that's what I'm finding with my life too. And that's what I want to keep doing. The simple fact of like waking up at like a certain time, it's almost motivating me to do a little bit extra in the morning. If it's like clean up my area a little bit, which then it's helping me feel kind of like more caught up and nice and organized when I get home from work. All my stuff is not all over the place in the morning, for example. One major thing that's going to help save me time and energy and everything else is that I finally found the nanny. It was so hard to find the right fit because this is somebody who's spending like every single day with you and your kids. And that was the thing that I needed. I knew I needed in order to be able to do more and be more productive and happy with my personal life and my work life. So I finally got the help that I needed, you know, because usually, at least for me, I've always said it's kind of like not frowned upon, but not the norm. Like I want to fully raise my kids. I want to fully be there for them. But I realized without the help, I'm not fully there for them. I'm too tired. I'm too angry. I'm too frustrated. So the time that I am spending with them is not all good quality time. So hopefully like this, with getting help at home, I'll be able to spend good, happy times with my kids, and all the other stuff that needs to get done will still get done without the frustration. So that's my solution. So hopefully, fingers crossed, everything works out as I planned. But it's been 2 days, so only 2 days that she started. So I'm still kind of exhausted because I'm fully training her. But that leads to one of the things that I want to talk about in this episode. So as I was training her, I realized that I don't have really like systems in place at home. Like a lot of things that we were doing were kind of like just do as we go, like figure it out as you go. Even simple thing like a breakfast. We don't have a plan. We don't have a system. Now, I'm a big believer to kind of run your household almost like a business, right? Okay, of course, I'm an entrepreneur. Like I want to do that in my personal life. But as much as in the past, I thought I was doing that, I guess I wasn't. So once the kids came into place, I kind of stopped applying that like run your household kind of like a business theory to my life. So that's what I realized I was missing, even for me personally, to have better control over my house life, was the systems in place. For example, I didn't have a plan of, okay, what are different breakfast options that I like to eat, that my kids like to eat, and what groceries are required for that. So now I add it to my to-do list whenever I have time to literally sit down and almost like a daycare, because that's what they do at my son's daycare school, is they literally have a calendar of planned out meals for the whole month. I'm going to try to do it weekly. I think month is a little bit unrealistic for me, but I want to try to plan it out about weekly, and it could repeat the same things every week, and we can switch it out maybe once a month, right? Like that, everybody kind of knows what to expect. When we go shopping, we can just do it all in one trip. We don't have to go shopping 2-3 times a week. We can just do once a week shopping. There we go. That already saves a lot of time and effort in my household business, and then we're being more efficient, right? And then also, now that we have the nanny who's going to help us with these tasks, she can know exactly what to do. Now, honestly, it made me realize that if I did this for myself, I could have probably managed it way better than I was. But sometimes I guess that's what it takes, is when you're trying to teach somebody else how to do things. Like right now I'm training her, so I'm teaching her what we normally do. That's when I'm finding the flaws in my system. I highly encourage you, if you want to kind of, I guess, like critique or evaluate your own systems and life at home, try to teach your day-to-day process, your day-to-day habits, your day-to-day like schedule to somebody else, even if it's a friend, right? That's when I realized, oh my God, there's so many little pieces missing. Like, let's break it down and really figure out, okay, in the mornings, let's say in my household, it's just me and my husband. If I am clear, in the mornings, we wake up at 7 a.m. My husband dresses my daughter, I dress my son, then we go down and have breakfast all together, who's responsible for making the breakfast, who does the cleaning, at what time we leave the house. So I realized if I were to sit down and really plan this out, it would be so much easier. Everything would be so much easier to have a plan. I think the easy stuff, our day to day, sometimes we don't think about really like making it almost like a routine and a system. Anyway, so that's what I encourage everybody to do. That's what I'm personally working on now. So I have a to-do list item to figure out breakfast items we want to incorporate into our daily routine. So we're not just eating anything that we find in the morning or just grabbing a donut or having fast food just because we didn't spend some time to pre-think and pre-plan. And also same goes, for lunch and dinner and everything else too. So that's one main thing. And the second thing was a major thing. I'm big on education. If you guys didn't know, I love education and I think it's so important. So my passion, I think I'm really good at teaching. I think it comes naturally to me, and my passion is to like share my knowledge, share what I've done that works well for me personally, for me to have my perfect happy life. Obviously it's not perfect at every second, but just in the grand picture of things. So I want to raise my kids that way. I want to embed really good habits in their daily routine now. I want to focus on education with them now. But I realize I want to do that, but I don't know exactly what they need to be doing day to day, like the little activities I could be doing with my 1-year-old in order to raise her that way. For example, my son goes to the daycare, and we found, we did a lot of research before we were able to be like, okay, we'll send them off almost all day so we could work. But we found that for us, the Montessori like system works well. It's a lot independent based, but also a lot of play based. I loved that system. So even at home with my 1-year-old, I decided, okay, we're going to kind of try to take whatever they do in daycare with that school Montessori system. And literally I Googled that simple thing of like little activities I could do with my 1-year-old. Sometimes I feel like as our day-to-day, we get so busy and we get so tied up with just having almost like our life control us instead of us controlling our life, that we don't even sit down and think, okay, is there a better way to do this? Is there a more efficient way of doing this? Or can I be changing something around for me to be happier? So that's also when I realized, okay, I really want to focus this with my kids, and I try to put so much effort into teaching them. But wait, I don't know the breakdown. Like I couldn't give a list. I thought I knew exactly what to do, but I couldn't give a list to my nanny and be like, okay, when I'm not home, these are the activities you do with my 1-year-old to make sure we develop X, Y, and Z. So that was another big learning thing for me, that I realized, yeah, I like education. I want to give them all of like everything like possible that they can do right now, hopefully, so they have an easier adulthood, all the habits that I had to work so hard on building as an adult, so we can embed that into them as little kids. Main thing I realized, I need to sit down and plan things out so then everything could be smoother and easier. So the third thing I realized, and I think I talked about this in the previous episode about simplifying and literally decluttering, I realized that over time, again, things in my house did get overcrowded. One specific thing is all the toys with the kids. So if you guys didn't know, for adults and kids, if there's too much of anything, it's overwhelming, it's stressful. For example, if at our work, at our job, our desk is really cluttered and there's just too much, there is research that proves that gets in the way of your productivity. So same goes in your house. So if your kitchen feels really like cluttered, you're less likely to want to cook or like try to manage it or be there to be able to, let's say, have a healthy eating habit. So your environment matters a lot. And this kind of leads to the second thing I want to talk about overall as a topic for this solo episode. So if you guys haven't noticed, I'm at a reset, cleanup, restart phase of my life after kids, I think. So that's the second major thing, is organizing my space, my area at work and at home, for me to be more happy, more productive, and overall feel like I have better control over things. So decluttering and minimizing to live more like a minimalist is one thing that I am doing right now. So we got rid of a lot of toys for the kids. The room is a lot more organized where there's less stuff. And actually I did that like 2 weeks ago, and the kids were, especially my 2.5-year-old, he was so much more excited to be in that room. We weren't in that room for months, their playroom, because it had gotten so cluttered. But once we organized it, and I had him help me. There was like 4 trucks, for example. I was like, okay, Alexander, from this 4, which 2 do you want to give away and which 2 do you want to keep? And honestly, I thought he was going to say, no, I want to keep everything. But surprisingly, he's like, okay, give away, keep. I was like, wow, can my 2-year-old really like do that? If we actually spend time with our little ones to teach them like these skills from that age, it's so much easier. They think that's just the way it is, instead of, building the habit of like having issues with letting go of things or holding on to too much stuff. So we only want to keep the things that we really need and that we really use, compared to just keeping it for hopefully one day to use, right? So that's kind of like the minimalist thing. I think the rule is if you haven't used it or touched it for 6 months, it's definitely a go. So that's what we've been working on. We did that at work. We actually had a lot of fun, and we did like a cleaning day, spring cleaning, and we did our front office area. We did some footage, so you guys can follow us on Instagram. We'll be posting some stuff later on. Next, we're gonna do like our kitchen area in the office and our little storage rooms. But it felt so good to even get rid of some stuff, to declutter, get organized, have a prettier space to work in. I feel like it inspires me to want to be here more, or look around me more, or sit down at my desk more. So that was the next thing. But so I was leaning into actually having your environment support your habits, right? So I'm going to go back and tie in the Tiny Habits book. And I know I've talked about it here and there, but it's so simple, the concept, but it's so important to be aware and apply it. And one main thing that recently the pages I was reading and refreshing on pointed out your environment, how it's important to set up your environment in a way where the habits we're trying to build is going to be much easier. So one example, and again, this is from the book, and one example he gave, it's his super fridge example. His and his wife's habits for a long time or dream was to eat healthier and grab like healthier snacks. I think specifically the example was, okay, I come home from work and I just have a bag of chips, but instead of that, I want to have like cut up cucumbers, for example, as a healthier snack. But in order to do that, we need to make sure our environment is set up for that to happen. So what he did specifically was, first he got rid of the chips, but of course, besides getting rid of the chips, you need to have more easily accessible to the healthier foods. So he called it a super fridge. What they did is they cleaned up their fridge. They made sure that anything they want to do and eat is nice and clean and organized and cut up and almost like food prepped inside the fridge. So it's more likely for them to grab it. And I know this is true because for me, I'll never eat fruit unless somebody, literally like my mom, will cut it for me, nicely washes and put it in front of me. That's probably like the only time I will eat fruit. But imagine if I spent 2 hours in my weekend, and I could see this kind of being fun if you do it like maybe with music, as a game, with your family, with your roommates, just literally prep all the healthy snacks for that week. If it's cutting up apples, cutting up the cucumbers for his case, putting it in cute little jars and having the fridge like really aesthetically like beautiful, I could already sense that once I open the fridge, I'm gonna want to grab that cut up strawberries as a healthier snack because that's what I want to do. I'm inspired to do that versus whatever is easy because I'm super hungry and I'm going to grab the bag of chips. We're going to put this to test in my household. We don't have the worst eating habits, but we don't have the greatest eating habits. And I'm going to try it and see how it works for us. So that's kind of a mini project. But first, we're still just decluttering and trying to find systems. And then we'll add better habits to improve our lives. But I'm also going to try to do this at work, because most of the time and hours we're here at work. And honestly, we've gotten into a bad habit of having a lot of candies and chocolates, because, that's easy to grab and it's tasty. So it's easy to have a bad habit. We have a donut shop down the street, so we've been getting donuts and cookies. So hopefully once we incorporate that into our work life, we can all eat healthy over here too. And I think it'll encourage everybody to feel better too overall. For work too, I think if you have happier employees, healthier employees, and we have to remember too, like food also equals energy. So it's not only to be skinny. Like I don't care to be skinny, honestly. Of course, like I want to feel and look my best, but eating healthy is not only about being skinny. It's about feeling healthy. It's about having the energy. So when we eat a lot of sugars too, which is like my bad habit, I love sugar. It's great for us for an hour at the most, maybe. We get like a sugar high, then we crash, then we feel sluggish. It's not good for us at all. So that's the main reason why I want to incorporate this into my life and my office work life for my colleagues too, because I do believe also it will lead to better productivity and happiness, and that's what we want. Yeah, so that's the super fridge concept. Another example I think he had was flossing your teeth. Again, I'm kind of horrible at that, and all my excuses for all of this was the lack of time with the kids and having to deal with them mornings and nights. But I know part of it is an excuse, so hopefully now that I found the solution to get help at home, I can work on my habits, because that's really my goal, is to be the best version of me and find my new identity. So the habit of flossing, if we're horrible at it, which I know more people are than they admit, an easy way to set up our environment is instead of having our floss inside our cabinet, we can have it easily accessible on our counter. We might not like it there because it doesn't look pretty, but it will be more accessible. Or another example is if you think you're going to get to it more likely or remember more likely, you could put it next to your coffee if that's something you get every morning, right? So you have to find and set up your environment in a way where the habit you're trying to build is going to be easier and more accessible. Same thing, another example would be working out. So right now I'm hoping I can get back to that regularly again. But this morning I kind of had a little time and I went into my garage where my workout equipment is and I couldn't even access it. Like there's too many stuff to move out of the way to get to it. Could have I done it? Probably. I could have probably spent like 5 minutes, but that was like my roadblock to it's okay, I'll do it tomorrow, right? So again, setting our environment where it's easy to access is going to be better for us to build our habits. All right, so now let's talk about inspired versus motivated. I think I've talked about all of this habit stuff and like decluttering and getting our life together, reorganizing schedules, being on top of your life. I talked about it like in different forms in different episodes, but I really think this is like the ultimate episode for you to kind of get your shit together because that's what I'm doing right now. I'm getting all my shit together again after having kids to feel more like in control of my day. Like I just want to wake up and feel like, ooh, I love my life again. I'm enjoying every step of the way and I feel clean and organized and on top of everything. Okay, hold on. What was I saying? Okay, inspired versus motivated, right? So let's talk about the difference. So I think this is something we know, but we forget or we don't realize until it's pointed out. And I think this is from that same book again that I remembered and I was reintroduced to the concept. If you're motivated to do something is actually a bad thing. I didn't realize that. So I always talk about motivational videos. Like I need to find stuff that motivate me. But then when this hit me, I was like, oh, this is the difference between motivated and inspired. So if I'm inspired to do something, I don't really need motivation. And if I really want to do something, I'm going to be inspired to do it. So that's the difference between inspired and motivation. If you're motivated, you're going to keep needing that motivation. That's why if somebody doesn't want to do something, they're going to keep needing that motivation. They're going to keep needing that push. They're going to keep needing that outside thing to push them to accomplish that goal. But if you're inspired to do something, then you don't need the motivation. You literally just want to do it. It's fun. It's exciting. So I think that's also why the concept of love what you do really works with people being successful. Because if you're doing what you love, you're inspired to do it. Nobody has to push you to do it. You want to do it. It's fun. You get up, you don't find any excuses or things that get in your way. You're like, no, I'm doing it. This is fun. I still want to do it. You know, it's like a kid at a candy store. Like, you can't stop me. So with that said, what we really want to do is when we're looking at our life and our goals, if it's personal or business, you want to really see if that's something that you really want to do. The way you're going to know if it's something you really want to do is if you apply, okay, am I kind of motivated at the moment to do this, or am I inspired to do this? Same with habits. It goes back to like our goals, our dreams, our dream boards, what we want. It goes back to that. But now we're actually really paying attention to, is this something I really want? And this was kind of the process I've been going through to also like declutter and really clarify like my vision for myself and my life and my business to see where I want to go. So there was a question I asked, for example, like for a long time, and this is not true anymore, but for a long time, I always wanted to meditate, for example, in the mornings, right? It has never happened. Why has it never happened? It was probably because I didn't really want it, right? I wasn't really inspired, or it was a new habit that I was just trying to wake up and be like, okay, now I'm going to meditate. But I realized I don't even know how to meditate. Like, I've done some guided meditations, but I've never even spent the time to be like, okay, like, how do I be quiet? Like, what does it mean? Is there any techniques? Is there any forms? Can I take a class on it? Can I go to like a little seminar? I know that there's meditation centers. Can I maybe like go? Can somebody show me? Can I, get help? Right? So I realized those were the two things that were holding me back. Either I wasn't inspired enough to do it, or I just didn't really know how to be able to start small, for example. So that's another thing I wanted to share with you guys too, as far as motivated versus inspired. And again, it also goes back down to like setting up your environment. So if in the mornings I always want to meditate, I need to take action. I need to maybe first know how to do it, right? Or know a place where I can start tiny and have like a mat or like whatever else I need. See, I don't even know what I need. That's why it's not happening. So that was kind of like, oh, the things that I really want to do that kind of have sometimes become a burden, there is a reason why it's not happening. It's either I'm not inspired, like I don't really care for it. So why am I stressed out about wanting to do this thing? I could get rid of it. Like I don't want to meditate in the mornings anymore. I just get rid of that habit. Or second thing, do I have all the tools and all the things I need in order to start that habit, but in a tiny way? Then if that's my answer, then that's where I start, right? Well, these are all the crazy things. Some people think I'm crazy. I spend too much time trying to become like the best version of myself. But to be really honest, I am inspired to. It's fun for me. I love it. I love learning new ways of how to better myself, my life, my business. And I love sharing that with you guys. And that's really the turn that this podcast I think is going to take. I realize that I love business. I really do, because that's what makes me money. But what my real passion is really inspiring people to live their best life. If it's in their personal life, if it's in their work life, if it's in any form to literally develop as a person to reach that ultimate goal of like feeling at peace and happiness and content with our daily lives. So really, like, I think if I were to compare, because I've been pushing more like business coachy type of podcast, but I think this is more gonna transition into more of a life coaching type of podcast, because I really, really, really am inspired to live my best life. And there's so much good in the world. There's so much to see. There's so much to experience, so much to share. And I really want to live that fulfilled life myself, but I want to share that with you. So if you are at a place where you are not there, but you really want to get there, you have some guidance of somebody who's trying something, sharing what works, what doesn't work, and you have almost like a roadmap that you can follow to get to that happy place. Stay tuned. Follow us on social media. We are going to try to be more active on the day-to-day stuff too on the Yegi project. So I hope to connect with you guys there and stay in the loop. But if you guys have anything that you want to work on personally or in your business and you need help, I always love getting inspired ideas in order to do our next episode. Make sure to share that with us either on social media, DM us, or you can email us at info@theyegiproject.com. Well, until next time, bye. Thank you for listening. Please rate and review this podcast. Follow and engage with us on social media under the Yegi Project. And if you're interested in being a guest, email info@theyegiproject.com. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes.